gruesome murder in Florida with no witnesses.
This is probably one of the bloodiest scenes I've seen.
Police, open up!
Police chase suspected murderer Richard Garber across the country.
My adrenaline is always pumping every day.
This fugitive stays one step ahead of the law.
You right?
We were up against a brick wall.
Investigators hope to stop him before he strikes again.
Their worst fear is that he's going to fight to the death.
Move.
Criminals sometimes try to escape from justice. This is the story of how one man almost got away with it. It's a foggy summer night in Lauderhill, Florida. Jaime Moraes is a construction worker on disability leave. He's returning to his apartment after a meeting with his pastor. It's late, and the building is deadly quiet. His neighbor, Richard Garber, is lurking in the shadows. Moraes is unaware that Garber is standing in the hallway. Moraes tries to defend himself, but the beating is relentless. Having taken the life of Jaime Moraes, Garber leaves the scene. Later that evening, Garber spends the night gambling at the Seminole Casino 10 miles from his home. A few drinks calm his nerves. Then he leaves for home.
I drove according to the speed limit. I followed all the laws, always belted up. I know that that's one of the most dangerous times when you're in the car.
It's only a short drive, but Garber doesn't make it far. At 12:50 a.m., a police officer pulls Garber over for having a faulty taillight.
Drugs? Alcohol in the car?
No, I don't.
No? I've got to check this one in. All right.
Garber is nervous as the officer calls in his driver's license and license plate.
16748.
The simplest, little, stupidest thing could cost you. Could get you caught.
Garber's background check comes up clean.
Seems to check out.
There are no outstanding warrants for his arrest. The officer has no idea that Garber has just committed murder.
26, thank you.
The next morning, Moraes' sister is worried. Her brother went out the night before, and she hasn't seen him since. As she leaves for work, she discovers a horrific scene. In a panic, she calls 911.
Can I help you? My brother was killed.
Layla Moraes found her brother around 7:30 a.m. that morning. To find her brother, her loved one, brutally beaten to death, she was devastated.
Sergeant Glenn Bucata is a member of the Broward County Sheriff's Homicide Division and one of the lead investigators on the case.
When I arrived on scene, I noticed that the entire hallway in front of Jaime Moraes' apartment door was just covered in blood. It just screamed violence. This is probably one of the bloodiest scenes I've seen in over 15 years working homicides.
Police begin their forensics work, documenting the scene and collecting evidence.
You have to pick a wall, if you will, and you start. And then you methodically either go clockwise or counterclockwise. And you literally document every square foot of that scene.
Their work will be critical in determining the identity of the killer and proving guilt.
We're looking for every trace, fiber, hair, fingerprint, friction ridge detail pattern, blood stain, We're looking for DNA evidence. We're looking for sweat.
The forensics team determines Morea's cause of death. He was bludgeoned with a threaded metal pipe.
The individual who died fought for their life in this hallway.
He was going into his apartment. He has his keys in his hand. Next thing you know, he's being whacked with this pipe across the head.
Sergeant Ken Kaminsky is a member of the Broward County Sheriff's Homicide Division. He's Bukata's partner and the other lead investigator on the case.
There was no screaming. There was no yelling. It was just a continual, brutal onslaught of pipe swinging at him. He had never had a chance.
So you said you didn't know the victim?
I've just seen him.
The day after the murder, investigators begin to question apartment residents.
Nothing out of the ordinary last night.
Nothing.
Do you happen to know if your brother owns any weapons?
They interview the sister and ask if she knew anyone who would want to hurt Moraes.
Richard Garber?
She tells them that Richard Garber is an upstairs neighbor.
He lives upstairs.
Yeah.
He used to work as a caregiver for her disabled brother.
Oh, that's how this works, huh? You're lucky. For me, you're alive.
He had owed me for the last week that I worked. I don't remember the exact amount. It was like $250, somewhere in that nature. And when I went to collect, he gave me a check for $127. And I said, "What is this?" He said, "Well, this is what I owe you." And I said, "Well, no, it isn't." He said, "Well, that's all I'm going to pay."
Hi, can I help you? Garber? Yes.
The detectives are anxious to learn what Richard Garber knows about the murder.
Sure, come on in.
They interview Garber in his apartment.
Everything was fine, yeah? Yeah, he was a cool guy to work for. Had no problems.
Garber tells the investigators that Moraes was recovering from a work injury.
One of the nails didn't go in, hit him in the head, and it did a lot of damage.
Garber says he and his longtime girlfriend, Ana Maria Alcantara, met Moraes through some friends. They offered to help Moraes by finding disability insurance for him. At the same time, they became his caregivers. During this time, Garber says he and Moraes became friends.
I used to take him to the baseball games. We went bowling, to the movies. I mean, he was a friend.
Garber also tells investigators that Moraes was suing the nail gun manufacturer. He was hoping to receive a big settlement.
Richard Garber was a very outgoing individual. He was very articulate, highly intelligent, but also you can tell over time that he appeared to be somewhat manipulative.
It's pretty much just a one-on-one relationship.
Garber tells police the two had an argument, and Moraes fired him.
It was no big thing, it's...
Despite this, Garber says he had no hard feelings toward Moraes.
I'm not really stressed for any money or anything, but, So when did this happen?
The sergeants believe Garber's story and don't consider him a suspect.
Richard Garber came across very, very calm, cool, collected, very cordial. There was nothing that jumped up and said, "Be alert."
I'm going to be moving to Vegas.
Free to go, Garber tells the officers that he's moving to Las Vegas with his girlfriend.
If there's anything else I can help you, any more questions?
Anna Marie got sick. She had breast cancer and emphysema. So she knew that her time was limited, and she wanted to go to Vegas, so we decided to move there.
Oh, absolutely. Sure, absolutely, yes.
Garber gives police his new phone number and starts driving to Las Vegas.
So, how long have you lived in the building?
The sergeants continue their investigation. They spend the next few days canvassing the neighborhood and looking into anyone who would want Moraes dead.
Did you ever have any...
They believe that this crime wasn't a random act of violence.
It certainly did not appear to be a hit-and-run robbery style issue, and the person who committed this act clearly was not going to stop until they accomplished their mission.
Kaminsky.
On Monday, July 5th, 2 days after the murder, the Broward County Sheriff's Office gets a call from the Las Vegas Police Department.
What can I help you with?
An unlikely source has given them an important tip.
I have some information that I want to...
We get notified from the Las Vegas Police Department that they had a tip.
Okay, what's his name?
His name is Rick Garber.
They told us that a female named Anna Maria Alcantara was at their police station and that she was reporting to them that Rick Garber is responsible for the murder of Johnyo.
He's here in town right now. And,
Anna Maria tells police how Rick confided in her. He told her that he killed Marias and how he did it.
Anna had very detailed information about the murder that only the murderer and we knew.
What's going to happen?
Hopefully I'm going to win.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Are you going to win?
Apparently, there was more to the story of Marias' lawsuit than Garber revealed to police.
Hanya Marias had promised Richard Garber some of that money, a large sum of money, in the tens of thousands of dollars.
And what are you going to do with the money?
I'm going to get better, enjoy my life. Yeah,
enjoy your life.
enough.
Oh, really? What about me?
When the relationship became sour, Hanya Marias told Richard Garber not only was he not going to take care of him anymore, he was fired, but that he wasn't going to be a party to any monies that Richard Garber was supposed to get.
You are a cheap bastard. Go ahead, take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
Anna Maria tells them where Garber is staying. A warrant is issued for Richard Garber's arrest. Then, Sergeants Bukata and Kaminsky take the first flight to Las Vegas. The sergeants arrive in Las Vegas. For a fugitive on the run, Garber feels there's no better place to lose yourself and become anonymous than in the lights and excitement of Las Vegas. The sergeants head to the hotel and up to Garber's room.
All sorts of things start to go through your mind as you walk step by step down the hall. You're thinking about the brutality of the murder, and you're thinking, obviously, of our safety as homicide detectives.
Police, open up!
There's no reply. The officers could be walking into a trap. With their weapons at the ready, they slide the key into the door and charge in. In July of 1999, Fort Lauderdale investigators are on a cross-country manhunt for Richard Garber, the man they believe viciously murdered Hanya Moraes. It's been 5 days since the murder, and they've tracked Garber to a Las Vegas hotel room.
We come into the room, and inside the room we see that the bed's unmade. We see that there's a suitcase that's there. It's open. There are clothes that are strewn about the room. We found that he had toiletries that were still in the bathroom, but no Rick Garber. He was gone.
Didn't take anything. Looks like he's still here.
This is recent.
Maybe still in the hotel.
Stop.
After earlier tipping off police, Garber's girlfriend Anna Maria Alcantara had a change of heart. She called Garber and warned him that the police were coming for him.
What?
According to fugitive expert Steve Furton, this can be a common occurrence for the loved ones of fugitives.
Alcantara is experiencing some conflicting emotions right now. On the one end, she's in love with Garber, and she wants to help him. And on the other end, she knows the right thing to do is to tell the police where he's at, and she doesn't want to go to jail.
Excuse me, the gentleman we were looking for earlier, Richard Garber. Have you seen him in the lobby?
No, I didn't see him at all this morning.
The detectives fan out, searching the lobby, the gaming area, and other parts of the hotel.
We knew that we just missed Richard Garber. Probably within a few hours.
Okay.
We were on a trail of a murderer.
They post an all-points bulletin to other hotels and casinos to be on the lookout for Richard Garber.
We believe that Richard Garber would show up back at either the Maxim or another hotel in Las Vegas.
As police search for Garber in Las Vegas, Garber is racing down the highway. Before leaving, he meets with Anna Maria one last time.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
I said, regardless of what happens, this is like the end of my life as I know it, And I decided to take off. I had some money put away, and she had on her at that point in time about $14,000, which she gave me, and I took off.
Unsure of where to go, he heads west to California.
I really didn't have a plan. Who expects to find themselves a fugitive? I really had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that I was taking off, and that was the rest of it. I was going to play by ear.
Garber has nothing but open road in front of him. He gets about 50 miles outside of Las Vegas, when in the middle of the hot, dusty desert, his car breaks down. Garber is stuck in the desert and baking in the July heat. He knows that death comes quickly out here. Garber decides to abandon his car. He removes the license plate, but leaves his map behind. Then, all he can do is wait. He doesn't have to wait long.
You right? What happened, your car? What, it overheated?
The driver offers him a ride to Baker, California, the nearest town from there.
What are you doing out here?
He has no idea that Garber is wanted for murder.
It's very dangerous in this particular situation for the motorist to pick up Garber.
How long you been in Nevada?
We don't know how desperate Garber is. If Garber slips up and says something to the motorist, is Garber going to panic and say, I need to kill this person because he's going to tell the police who I am, where I'm at, which way I'm headed?
They arrive in Baker, California without incident.
Well, there you go.
Garber gets a new car and hits the road once again. He has lost valuable time and fears police are closing in.
I knew the warrant had kicked in. My adrenaline was going full blast. I felt like I was having a heart attack. All my senses were heightened. I was on full alert.
As Garber is fleeing through the desert, back in Florida, 2,700 miles away, the Broward County Forensics team is searching his apartment.
We're looking for body fluids. We're looking for any and every clue one can imagine.
They discover what could be important evidence tying Garber to the murder.
We located items inside the apartment that certainly were investigative clues, literally staring me in the face.
Police are surprised to discover so much evidence left behind. They find traces of blood on the front door handle, the thermostat, and even a paper towel on the kitchen trash. Investigators also find a bag containing latex gloves, similar to the fragments found at the crime scene. Back in Las Vegas, Sergeants Bukata and Kaminsky are still hoping to get a lead on Garber's whereabouts.
Gentlemen, can you let me know if you've seen him or anyone who looks like him in the past day or two?
They've narrowly missed capturing Garber in his hotel room. And now they're searching other hotels and casinos.
This man?
Police soon discover that Garber's cousin, Perry Sakowitz, lives in Las Vegas.
Mr. Suckwitz?
Yeah, what's going on, guys?
You're the cousin of Richard Garber, yes?
We asked Perry Sakowitz if he's seen his cousin Richard Garber. He said he did, but that Richard Garber took off, and he had no idea where Richard Garber was.
Maybe down to the strip, gambling a little. We'll look for some ladies, I don't know.
We informed Perry Sakowitz that we were looking for Richard Garber concerning a murder that happened in Lauderdale, Florida. That if he were to see his cousin, Richard Garber, that Perry Sakowitz should call authorities to do the right thing.
We got it.
Investigators have run out of leads in Las Vegas.
What? Where?
They are about to return to Florida when they get the break they've been waiting for.
Was there anything inside?
I received a phone call from the California Highway Patrol. The dispatcher told me that Richard Garber's car was located in California within the Mojave Desert. It was unoccupied and appeared to be abandoned.
Detectives request an aerial search where the car was discovered.
We had helicopter come out and check the area of the desert to see if he actually was sleeping somewhere, camping somewhere, fled, walking through the desert in order to evade us.
The aerial police unit scans the desert, looking for a campsite, discarded luggage, or any other sign of Richard Garber. Meanwhile, Vilcata and Kaminsky travel to Barstow, California, and to where the Highway Patrol has towed Garber's abandoned car. They examine the car and find some important clues.
We found blood on the steering wheel. We found blood also on the seat.
The evidence is collected and sent back to the forensics team for analysis. The sergeants also find the map Garber left behind. He may have made a mistake and given away his destination. It's been 2 weeks since Hanyo Moraes was murdered in his Lauderhill, Florida apartment. Fugitive Richard Garber is heading to California after narrowly escaping authorities in Las Vegas. Police locate his abandoned car along the highway. It holds a clue that could point to Garber's whereabouts.
Upon searching the car, we found in plain view on the passenger seat a map. The map was face up. The state was California.
We knew now that he had a target he was trying to get out to, and that was somewhere in California, and that he was going to continue to try to evade law enforcement.
Thinking they have an important lead, investigators focus their search on Southern California. They alert authorities along Interstate I-15 and in the city of Los Angeles. Los Angeles police post flyers and issue alerts. Finding one fugitive in a vast region of over 24 million people is almost impossible. What investigators don't know is that Garber has purposely thrown them off his trail.
I had a map out that I had been looking at, and I kind of traced the line to San Diego, even though I was going north. There was just a little ruse that actually kind of worked.
In this particular case, leaving the map behind with the line showing that he was headed towards San Diego was pretty creative on his part. Most fugitives aren't that creative.
As police focus their attention on Southern California, Richard Garber is heading north to the San Francisco Bay Area. He has traveled over 3,000 miles since leaving his home near Fort Lauderdale, Florida. As he searches for a place to settle down, he's paranoid and constantly looking over his shoulder.
You're always aware that you're on the run. It never leaves you. There's never a moment that, you feel completely at ease. Any minute that door could be busted open and here they come in running for you.
Richard Garber may have been free, but in his mind, he was a caught man. Every day he had to wake up feeling contained.
Garber drives south to San Jose, hoping to settle down there.
And at this point in time, I realized that I really didn't know what I was doing. I went over to the library, and I got on the internet and started hunting around, trying to find some clues. And I found a couple of websites that gave, not rules, but like guidelines for fugitives.
Back in Florida, forensics technicians begin their work. They analyze evidence collected from the crime scene, Garber's apartment, and Garber's abandoned car. This state-of-the-art crime lab is set up to analyze almost any type of evidence. Their rack of firearms allows them to test ballistics on a wide range of pistols and rifles. Their artists can recreate victim profiles from a small piece of skull. And their drug vault houses some of Colombia's finest. For the Garber case, technicians use a DNA robotics machine to determine the identity of each blood sample.
Those samples, once they're actually racked, stacked, and packed into specialized containers, now a robot can sample what 10 years ago a human had to sample.
They use specialized light sources to examine the floor panels of his apartment.
Hairs, fibers, and blood will fluoresce or luminesce. We then see clues that would normally go undetected.
They analyze the glove fragments found at the crime scene.
To the forensic scientist or practitioner, you're looking for that needle in the haystack that very well may be the clue that solves the case.
The work being done in the lab will be helpful during the trial. But first, they have to catch their fugitive. It's been 3 months since Garber brutally murdered Hanyo Moraes, then slipped away. The trail has gone cold, and investigators are worried.
Nothing in the hotel?
We felt the longer that Rick was on the run, that he was a danger to other people. And we were concerned that this could happen again in California, or Las Vegas, or wherever he may end up.
Using a false name and paying cash, Garber rents a cheap apartment in San Jose, California. He avoids getting a job, fearing he might get caught. And now, his supply of cash has gotten dangerously low. But he knows where to get more.
I knew I had to get in touch with Anna, and I didn't want to call. I was pretty sure that they had her phone tapped, and my cousin too. So I drove to Vegas.
Going back to Las Vegas is a risky move. The police are actively looking for him there, but Garber is desperate. He arrives in town and arranges to meet Anna Maria.
We set up a little system where I'd meet her once a month at a certain place, and she would give me between $3,000, $4,000, $5,000.
Anna Maria's support is Garber's lifeline. It's a short-lived reunion as Garber takes the money and immediately heads back to San Jose. During the drive, Garber remains on edge. He knows that his greatest chance of contact with police is during a traffic stop.
In Garber's situation, that is probably going to be the weakest link in the chain because he could be stopped for taillight out. He could get involved in an accident, something he couldn't avoid that's going to bring him in contact with the police department.
Garber travels the 600 miles back to San Jose, California without incident. He makes it to within a few miles of his new home when he has an accident with a cyclist.
Are you all right? What the hell were you doing? I didn't see you.
Garber is anxious to keep things quiet, but the man he's just hit is an off-duty police officer.
Let me see your
This
ID.
one mistake could spell the end of his freedom. For more than 3 months, Richard Garber has been hiding out as a fugitive in San Jose, California. He's evading police who believe he's responsible for the murder of a man back in Florida. While pulling out of a parking lot, Garber has a dangerous run-in.
So I inched out my car very slowly. And I mean very slowly. I just inched it out. And here comes this bicycle, hit my front fender, and the guy went flying.
bicyclist may be injured, but helping him could put Garber at risk.
Are you all right? What the hell are you doing? I didn't see you.
He jumps up and starts yelling at me. You know, I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I said, I came out real slow. I just inched out.
Out of nowhere. You should be watching where you're going. People are up and down the street all the time. Okay? San Jose PD.
He says, well, I'm a San Jose policeman. I said, just what I needed.
Look at my bike. My bike could be completely destroyed. Let me see your ID. My ID? Let me see it.
I said, you're the one. I said, it shouldn't be on a sidewalk.
Pushing back is Garber's only hope for avoiding detection.
I was driving slow. I mean, I was looking where I was going. I just didn't see you. All right, man. I shouldn't have been on the sidewalk, okay?
Realizing he's partly at fault, the officer backs off.
You know, watch where you're going next time, okay?
And he said, oh, well, he said, you know, you're right about that. I said, but look, you know, are you okay? He said, yeah, let's just let this go.
It's a close call, and another reminder that he can never let his guard down.
Nothing was as close to that hitting the policeman. I don't think it gets any closer than that.
Garber is blending in with his new surroundings. He spends the next few months laying low and settling in to life on the run.
I started hanging out in museums, libraries. I went to parks. I just tried to keep a low profile. I bought a baseball cap and kept it pulled down over my eyes, and, you know, some black rimmed glasses.
Garber is living under the radar. He's mingling with the public who has no idea of the murderer in their midst.
You never know if the person sitting next to you in the park or at the movies or a restaurant is a fugitive. They don't have a stereotypical look to them. A fugitive could be a juvenile, could be an elderly man, could be female. They don't have a stamp across their forehead.
On a warm summer day, Garber sits down for a quiet lunch in the park. Despite the peaceful setting, trouble is brewing. A SWAT team gears up, preparing to arrest a dangerous fugitive. Out of nowhere, the SWAT team moves in. Garber panics. They get their man, but it's not Garber they're after. It's a chilling reminder that although he's not behind bars, he's still not free.
And I was just sitting there watching this whole thing come down, and I was thinking, boy, that could be me. They could be coming here for me next.
It's a stark reminder that for fugitives on the run, you can get caught anytime and anywhere. It's not his only close call. He rents a room in an apartment, and one day, while doing his laundry, he finds that the machine's in use. He leaves his clothes for later and goes for a run. Shortly afterward, a neighbor doing her own laundry sees Garber's laundry and decides to do him a favor. As she loads his clothes into the machine, she finds his wallet. The name on his driver's license is not the name she knows him by.
Richard Garber, that's his name.
Alarmed by this, she immediately calls the police.
It's his picture, but the name isn't his name.
So she got a little freaky because it wasn't the name that I had been using. She called up the San Jose Police Department.
When Garber returns, she confronts him with his true identity.
I put your laundry in for you.
Oh, well, thanks.
You left your wallet in your jeans.
Thank you.
Should I call you Richard Garber now?
I'm sorry?
This is the moment Garber has been dreading.
I didn't even know what kind of danger I was in.
You called the police.
Yeah, I
The woman tells Garber that the police confirmed there were no warrants out for his arrest.
You're sure? Okay, well, sorry I bothered you.
His record is clean. Somehow, the police never connected him to the murder in Florida.
I acted like, well, yeah, of course they're not going to, there's no warrants out on me, you know. Well, what do you expect? But inside I was like, I can't believe I ducked that bullet. I don't know how. I really don't.
Garber did a good job in this situation. He stayed cool. He didn't panic. Had he panicked, he would have brought a lot more attention to himself. She probably would have called the police back and said, hey, I think you need to double check on him.
2 popular crime shows produce episodes on the Garber case.
Hello? Did you hear? You're absolutely...
Anna Maria learns of this and tells Garber that he will be featured on the show.
I just could not believe that.
He fears being recognized. Garber has been on the run for 8 months and is getting low on funds. He drives back to Las Vegas to get more cash from his girlfriend, Anna Maria Alcantara.
Rick.
Hey, man. How's it going?
Good. How you doing, bro? I haven't seen you in a while. What's going on?
You know, just got into town. Mind if I come in?
Well, I'm getting ready to go to work. Yeah, come on in for a bit, man.
I went to Vegas. I drove over to my cousin's apartment. He said he would call Anna. And I said, well, just let me sleep here for a couple hours, you know.
Oh, man. It's bad time for me. I'm on my way to work.
He stops at his cousin Perry Sakowitz's house. Sakowitz is nervous because the police have already warned him about helping Garber. He knows they're keeping an eye on him. He tells Garber, no, he can't stay there. It's not a good idea.
And I was just, I was a little surprised that he asked me not to stay there. You know, we've known each other since we were practically babies. And I kind of forced my way into it, saying just I need to sleep for a few hours. I really was tired. It's a tiring trip, 9 hours in the car. It takes a lot out of you.
All right, thanks, man.
Reluctantly, Sakowitz gives him whatever cash he has and agrees to let him stay. Then, he leaves for work.
I put him in a bad spot. The FBI had been there and they had shown my picture around to all the neighbors. And he was afraid somebody would see me, and they reported.
It'd be best if you got somebody out there, yes.
Sakowitz knows he'll go to prison if he's caught helping Garber. The risk is too high.
Okay.
He calls the Las Vegas police and tells them that Richard Garber is in his apartment. Meanwhile, Garber settles down in front of the television. He turns on a crime show, the one that will soon air his own story. He's unaware that the police are on their way to arrest him. They surround Sakowitz's apartment and prepare to move in.
The fugitive has the advantage. We don't know if he's going to resist, if he's armed. It's extremely dangerous for the officers.
Okay, what's that second story?
Their worst fear is that Garber's going to be armed and that he's going to fight to the death.
This guy came to the door and started yelling, "Are you in there?" And I'm like, this is not good. Then the phone rang, and I must have rang 60, 70 times. I wasn't going to pick it up, but it just kept ringing and ringing and ringing.
Rick Garber was taken by surprise. He had no clue that the police were coming. He didn't think his cousin would give him up.
Garber is trapped. The only way out of the tiny apartment is through the front door. Will he surrender peacefully? Or will he go down fighting? February 26th, 2000. Suspected killer Richard Garber's life on the run is coming to a dramatic end. His cousin has tipped off police, and now officers have the apartment surrounded.
Stand by.
This is an intense situation. They don't know what they're coming up against, who's inside that apartment, what they're capable of.
could see the lock opening up. Somebody put the key in. I heard the key slide in, and the lock was starting to open up.
With time running out, Garber decides to make one last move.
Move. Clear! Is it clear? What do you got? Clear!
At first, the SWAT team can't find him.
When I went in the bathroom, I don't know why, I just took a shower. I don't know what I was thinking, I had no idea. And then they came in, just like you see on TV, I guess, with all the guns drawn.
Garber, I know you're in there. Let me see your hands right now. Keep them up. Don't move. Cover.
And that was the end of that. Life as I knew it was over.
Outnumbered and outgunned, Garber gives up without a fight.
Well, it's kind of like you knew it was inevitable. So I think the only thing I was hoping was that I didn't get killed in the process.
After 8 long months of close calls and dead ends, law enforcement finally has their fugitive.
He had a plan, and part of that plan was he was going to kill Johnyo and flee out to west to Las Vegas, and that would be the end of it.
Once in Florida, Richard Garber is tried for the murder of Hanya Moraes.
Someone has to speak for the victim, and unfortunately, usually someone has to speak for the dead.
During the trial, the forensics team presents their findings. Sergeant Stuart Mosher shows how they followed the trail of blood from the scene of the crime, literally up to Garber's door. Mosher also describes how DNA analysis found those blood samples to be Moraes's, and that blood samples taken from Garber's car were Moraes's as well.
He died a brutal death, slaughtered by a person who took care of him, nurtured him, and then in the end kills him because he is not going to get money from the golden egg.
On October 6, 2000, a jury finds Richard Garber guilty of the murder of Hanya Moraes. Garber is sentenced to life in prison.
I'm not bitter. I made some mistakes. I did some stupid things. Part of it led to me being here.
To this day, Garber maintains his innocence.
I know who did it. I don't know his name. I saw the guy. I know who did it. I know why it was done. I got the whole story. For all the good that it does me.
Detectives Bukata and Kaminsky are convinced that justice has been served.
We did our job. We caught a killer. And a jury of his peers convicted him based on all the evidence and the circumstances and the testimony that we collected.
The detectives also say this case proves that killers can't be stereotyped.
Killers don't have fangs. Killers don't have horns. Killers are people like you and me.
Rick Garber is not a person that has killer tattooed across his forehead. It could be your next door neighbor, like it was in this case.
Running from coast to coast, Richard Garber had almost gotten away with murder. Now, he's a prisoner at the Limestone Correctional Facility near Jacksonville, Florida. He'll spend the rest of his life behind these bars.
If we were to go to trial again today, that there's no question that I would be acquitted. That there's nothing there. But that's neither here nor there. The fact is that I was found guilty. I'm in here, and for now I just have to live with it.
A family man leading a secret life shocks the city of Memphis.
She had been shot 3 times in the head and once through the heart.
But this fugitive hides in plain sight.
He was playing golf. He was going to karaoke bars and singing.
To pay for this lifestyle, he turns to armed robbery.
His arrogance grew such that he thought that he could get away with it.
Can investigators catch him before he kills again? Criminals sometimes try to escape from justice. This is the story of how one man almost got away with it. June 24th, 2001, started out like any other Sunday for Joe Crouch, a 61-year-old businessman living in Memphis, Tennessee. Crouch, an avid golfer, entrepreneur, and family man, is living a life most dream of.
I'm sure that neighbors and friends and associates viewed us as living the good American dream. Nice home, membership in the country club, new cars. Loved my work, went to work, didn't miss a day's work in over probably 35 years.
Crouch is president of a small lending business in Memphis. He's just celebrated 41 years of marriage to his wife, Betsy, a retired nurse. Together, they have 2 grown children, Teresa and Jay. But this typical family life is not as it seems, for Joe Crouch is keeping a dark secret. Crouch has hidden an out-of-control addiction from everyone in his family.
Blackjack! I was an addicted gambler. I had friends I used to run with. We literally would bet $100 where the next car was going to be a Chevrolet Ford if we were in the car together.
I'm definitely going to win this one.
Over a long period of time, I probably did business with every bookie in the city of Memphis. Sooner or later, you outstrip your resources. And when that happens, then you start doing things to cover the losses, to provide the money, and those things are normally illegal.
Crouch has spiraled into the depths of his addiction.
What killed me was when Mississippi opened up casino gambling, and all of a sudden there's 7 or 8 or 9 casinos within a 35-minute drive from my office. Doom, that was it. There's always a reckoning date, there's always a payday.
In May of 2001, Crouch's gambling addiction has caught up with him. To cover his debt, he has written bad checks totaling more than $80,000. At an Indian casino in Philadelphia, Mississippi, his addiction reaches a tipping point.
Over the period of 2 nights, I could not stay away from the table. During that time, I lost $18,000, and the next thing you know, I'm at the ATM trying to get money out. I think if I'd have hit me, Joe, you cannot, you can't do it, you can't cure it. I remember thinking, very depressing, there's no way out.
Crouch returns home to Tennessee and receives a disturbing call from the district attorney's office. They inform him that he is going to be indicted for bank fraud.
Yes, I understand.
I probably hit the banks for somewhere around 85 grand. I knew that I was fixing to go to jail. The house was going to disappear, the car was going to disappear, and I'm going to leave my wife of 41 years sitting there with no way to deal with it.
Crouch is on the verge of losing everything. As his world spins out of control, he confronts Betsy with the truth.
I finally told her what was going to occur.
I'm going to be prosecuted for fraud.
She freaked out. Couldn't leave her to face the life that she would have faced.
Crouch knows his house of cards is about to collapse. He sees only one way out.
I made the horrible, terrible judgment that she would be better off deceased and have to live through what she'd have to live through. The truth of the matter was, I was too ashamed to face her and the consequences of having to deal with what I had done. I didn't have the guts to do that. I took the chicken way out.
Sunday, June 24th, 2001. Crouch is unable to sleep. He spends a restless night contemplating his plan. But by morning, he has made up his mind.
Oh, I knew it was going to happen when I woke up that morning. There's no turning back. I was mentally, emotionally numb. I didn't feel anything.
Crouch quietly slips out of bed and pulls a .25 caliber automatic from his nightstand.
I got up and took the gun, which I'd already put away, had already checked, and did what I did.
Crouch knows there is only one option for him now.
Didn't know what I was going to do. Expected to be picked up at any moment.
Minutes after killing his wife of 41 years, Crouch pulls out of the driveway. He's now a fugitive from justice. Instead of fleeing town, he makes a stop at his office. He sits down at his desk to explain to his two grown children why he killed their mother. Special Agent Chris Bonner is with the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
This is a copy of a letter that was provided to me related to the investigation of the homicide of Betsy Crouch. Your mother felt nothing. She was sound asleep. So I promise you she suffered nothing. I killed her because I loved her. I know that is hard to believe, but I just couldn't let her go through what was coming up. I am in too deep ever to get out.
Crouch heads east on Interstate 40 and mails the letters before leaving Memphis city limits. Then, he makes a call to his daughter's husband, Bobby Wampler.
Hello.
Crouch wants to confess to the crime so that his kids aren't the ones to discover Betsy's body.
Sure. I said, Bobby, this is Joe. I said, I need to tell you something. This is serious. I said, at 5 o'clock this morning, I shot and killed Betsy. I said, I want you to be the one to call the police. I want you to be the one to inform my two kids. He starts hollering and screaming. I said, and this will be the last time you ever talk to me. Cut the phone off, cell phone off, and threw the cell phone out of the car.
Bobby calls both Teresa and Jay to break the horrifying news. Then, he dials 911. Mickey Williams was a sergeant with Memphis, Tennessee Homicide Bureau back in 2001.
Your father called your husband at about what time?
At the crime scene, he questions Crouch's children, Jay and Teresa.
And they just seemed in a total state of shock, just kind of quiet and stoic.
Thank you.
In the house, investigators collect evidence and survey the brutality of the homicide.
She was upstairs in the master bedroom, laying on her back in the bed, and she had been shot 3 times in the head and once through the heart. Evidence pointed to the husband since he was gone, and there were things missing from the home. There was no evidence of a break-in. He chose to kill her and leave because I guess he saw that as closing out his life. In his mind, he was doing her a favor because she didn't want to live without him. She would be devastated. So I guess in his mind, it was better to put her out of her misery. It does seem kind of cold-blooded to me.
Major Williams immediately notifies local authorities that Crouch is armed and on the run. He sends out an all-points bulletin with a description of Crouch and the car he's driving. Crouch knows he has to get out of town quickly, but he doesn't have a plan.
You assume that every law enforcement official in the Southeast is after you.
After 12 hours on the run and 200 miles on the road, he checks into a Nashville motel for the night. Crouch knows he can't check in using his real name. He spins a cover story.
You check into a motel, and you have to register with a name.
I just need a room for the night.
Okay. I picked the name Jay Nelson. Jay's my son's name, so I guess there was a certain amount of identity bonding there. From that point on, I became J. Nelson, a retired widower from North Mississippi. That was a story that I gave people, that I was a successful businessman and I had decided to take an extended vacation.
After checking in, Crouch leaves the motel for a walk to clear his mind. Crouch and his wife were dedicated karaoke singers, and down the street, he comes across a karaoke bar. Crouch believes that it's just a matter of time until he's captured, so he enters the club, determined to enjoy his freedom while it lasts.
And I'm thinking like, okay, it's probably my last night on earth to do things like this, so what am I going to do? I'm going to do karaoke. When you go to karaoke, there's some nights you're good, some nights you're and some nights you're great. And as horrible as it may sound, I was great that night. I had committed a heinous, horrible, terrible crime. But yet less than 12 hours later, I'm standing up in front of a group of people singing karaoke, having a drink, and hustling a female. Now, how horrible is that?
The next day, Crouch drives over 200 miles and stays the night in Marietta, Georgia. He's terrified that the cops are just one step behind him.
You're driving down the highway and you see highway patrol sitting in the median. Of course, he's checking traffic. In your mind, he's looking for you. And so you sit there and you're like, oh my God, don't move. And when he doesn't move, it's like, oh, thank you, Jesus.
Crouch is always looking over his shoulder, but he's missing one vital tool for life on the run: money. He's bankrupt and can't get cash out of his accounts. After he killed his wife, he grabbed her purse. He knew she had access to accounts that he didn't.
He was smarter than your average criminal. They do things rash and, they don't really have a plan. It's kind of just opportunistic type thing. He went to great lengths to prevent being caught.
It doesn't keep him from making a critical mistake, his second day on the run.
I stopped at the bank right outside Marietta, and I put in my little credit card. Well, guess what? The little ATM machine took my card and said, you need to come inside and talk to the bank manager. And what do? You run.
Crouch realizes it's too late. He's just given the police his exact location by using his wife's credit card. Crouch gets into his car and flees south to Jacksonville.
You hit the road, and at 70-mile-an-hour speed limit just isn't enough.
Crouch is getting desperate. He has no money. His gas gauge is pressing empty. And now, the cops know his exact location. June 26, 2001. 24 hours after murdering his wife, Betsy, Joe Crouch is on the run. But Crouch is desperate for cash and decides to use his wife's bank card at an ATM in Marietta, Georgia. When the machine requests Crouch see the bank manager, he realizes there's only one thing to do.
You get the hell out of Dodge, you get back to the highway and move on, because you know what that means. It means within a certain period of time, law enforcement is going to know you in Marietta, Georgia, trying to use your credit card.
Betsy had a lot of credit cards, accounts, that he may have taken with him. So we were trying to see if maybe those popped up different places.
Crouch gets a lucky break. The ATM hit never turns up. Crouch arrives in Jacksonville, over 700 miles from the murder scene. He's nearly out of gas and has just $25 to his name. He starts thinking in terms of survival.
One of the first things I did that evening was to steal a tag there and put a Florida tag on the car so that they don't, they see the Tennessee tag, they might get suspicious about it.
The new tags give Crouch confidence that he's done enough to cover his tracks.
I was driving a very generic car. I'm driving a Mercury Sable, same body style as a TARS. There's 15 million of those driving on the streets of the United States, so it doesn't stick out.
While Crouch tries to blend into the Florida highways, Memphis Homicide is feverishly working the case.
It was obvious that he had fled the jurisdiction of Memphis, so we also took another step. In addition to getting a local warrant charging him here in Shelby County with first-degree murder, we got a federal UFAP warrant, which is unlawful flight to avoid prosecution.
Crouch realizes he can't just keep driving. He needs a plan if he's going to get away with murder.
If you're a fugitive from the law, unless you have planned ahead for it, there's not any way to exist other than criminal activity.
Crouch spends the second day of being a fugitive, searching Jacksonville for a robbery target. He's looking for stores with just one employee and no customers.
I found this convenience store. I sat across the street from it and looked at it, watched it, cased it. At some point in time, I finally said, this is it. Can't go no further. And I pulled in and parked at the end of the building, which was dark. There was no floodlight on it.
When Crouch enters the store, he makes certain that there are no customers. He sees that the coast is clear and approaches the store clerk.
Don't move. You're gonna be fine, don't worry.
I'd pulled a .25 caliber pistol and put it on his forehead and told him, I said, you're a nice young man. You're much too young to die over somebody else's money. And then I asked him, I said, is there any more money in the store? And he said, there's another register at the end of the counter. I took the money out of it.
Back up, keep moving.
And then I walked him back. I said, all I'm going to do is put you in the bathroom and shut the door. And I took him to the bathroom, told him to lay down and count to 500 before he came out. Ran to the front door of the store and walked to the car, got in the car, backed out and left and hit the highway.
The robbery nets him almost $300.
It was successful, and I got away with a small amount of money, which to me at that time was, oh my God, I can live for another couple of days.
Crouch has successfully added armed robbery to his rap sheet.
He totally flipped. That switch, that criminal switch came on in him when he killed his wife and left town. He became a serial criminal.
I read some comments in the paper and they talked about how deadly calm I was. But you do reach into a different moment when you're doing it. And then when you get out and go, it's exhilarating.
Crouch feels a rush of adrenaline. But the impromptu robbery doesn't solve his problems. He still has no concrete plans to avoid capture.
I ended up in the car and I'm headed south on I-95. And next thing you know, by the time I finally quit shaking and start breathing again, there's a sign that says Daytona 20-some miles ahead. And by then it's about 11 o'clock and I'm like, okay, Daytona Beach.
Hiding out in Florida gives Crouch a distinct advantage.
Once I got there and got settled, I knew I was going to stay there. And one of the reasons was that you blend in. Florida must have 25 million old white guys. And you fit in. You don't stick out. I looked the part of what I pretended to be. If you met me, and I'm telling you I'm a retired businessman from North Mississippi, a widower, taking a one-year extended golf vacation, would you think otherwise? No.
Again, I'm sorry to bother you, but anything.
72 hours into the investigation, Memphis PD knows that Crouch has skipped town, but the trail is growing cold. The Homicide Division issues a wanted poster to federal fugitive task forces throughout the southeast region.
The fact that his lifestyle was that of golfing and gambling, I distributed the flyers all over the country, sent it to the big casino hubs, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Las Vegas, Nevada, New Orleans, Louisiana.
Using the small amount of cash he got from the convenience store robbery, Crouch is able to rent a cheap motel room. But he can't shake a disturbing feeling.
For the first month, you're still terrified. You still assume every time you go to bed at night, that sometime during the night they're going to kick the door down and come in and get you. I mean, it's a constant, terrifying, traumatic feeling to be in.
While life on the run takes its toll on Crouch, he's got a bigger problem. The cash from his first robbery is running out.
He wouldn't be able to get a legitimate job. He would have to support himself somehow. And most people on the run, they turn to a life of crime, which is exactly what he did.
From June until November, Crouch commits more than 30 armed robberies in northern Florida.
By committing those robberies, he was playing with fire. He was running the risk of getting caught on those robberies or even getting killed.
In November 2001, Crouch decides to take a chance and reach out to his children one more time. He doesn't want to give away his location by postmarking the letters in Daytona Beach shores, so he prepares the letters and drives 600 miles to New Orleans, Louisiana to mail them.
In November, several months after the killing, he mailed a big letter, express package, through the post office. He was giving his son, Jay, power of attorney over the business, which, of course, he bankrupted. When he left, the business was shot down in flames.
When Crouch's children receive the letters, they immediately hand them over to Memphis Homicide.
Does your father know anybody in New Orleans?
Homicide Detective Mickey Williams takes action and obtains surveillance video from the New Orleans post office. Will Crouch's plan to escape from justice fool police? Businessman and family man Joe Crouch has been on the run for 4 months since murdering his wife Betsy in Memphis, Tennessee. November 2001. Memphis Homicide Detective Mickey Williams gets a break. Postal inspectors hand over photographic evidence of Crouch mailing a package to his kids.
We weren't dealing with a local search. Okay, it was going to take a lot more effort to get him than what we usually do, because most of our people get captured locally. We already had the feds involved, so we were, desperately trying to find him.
Unfortunately, the New Orleans post office's surveillance camera proves to be a weak lead for Detective Williams. It doesn't pay out any information about where Crouch is or where he is going. The case grows cold again. Crouch doesn't hang around New Orleans. He hits the highway and travels back to Daytona Beach Shores, Florida, where he is living under the assumed name Jay Nelson. Detective Brian Brookman is the Daytona Beach Shores investigator who worked the case.
.22 caliber revolver that was found. Mr. Crouch was trying to live it up. He was playing golf. He was going on gambling cruise ships. He was going to karaoke bars and singing.
I finally began to not get comfortable, but get to the point of where I actually believe this could happen for a while. You always know it's coming to an end, you just don't know how long.
Crouch's love of karaoke, gambling, and golf quickly bleed him of cash. The small takes from the more than 30 convenience store robberies he has committed are not enough. Crouch decides it's time to get aggressive with his robberies and go for bigger targets.
I guess his confidence was such that he thought that he became good enough to graduate, into banks. His arrogance grew such that he thought that he could get away with it.
It's a matter of exposure and reward. It's that simple. Every time you walked in a convenience store and pulled a gun, you're in danger of getting killed or killing somebody. And what do you get out of it? Most of them is $300 or $400. You've got to do it again in a week and a half or 2 weeks.
Methodically, Crouch starts to develop a profile for the type of bank he wants to hit.
It's always going to be a local, regional bank, not a national chain. One that would have no more than 4 employees. And one that would have no men. Always all females. Men tend to get heroic. Men tend to want to be, the macho and testosterone's flowing. Next thing you know, you may have to shoot somebody.
Crouch carefully plans every detail of the heist, down to his clothing.
I played being what I looked like, which was a older retired gentleman that they get thousands in the bank every day. I wore a certain pair of shoes. I wore a pair of Dockers. I always wore what you would term a polo shirt. I would normally wear a cap that would be innocuous to them.
December 5th, 2001. Crouch has identified the perfect bank. He knows bank robberies attract media attention, so he drives 60 miles to Orlando, an area he thinks is outside the Daytona media market and outside of their news coverage. He picks a bank a quarter mile from the interstate, and it's a small bank branch with limited activity. Crouch spends over an hour casing the bank. At 11 a.m., he sees one of the 4 female employees leave the building for lunch. Inside, Crouch's plan is falling into place, except for one thing. Surveillance cameras are getting a clear shot of the bank. But for Crouch, it's the point of no return. He calmly walks to the bank manager and delivers a very clear message.
Do exactly what I say, you won't get hurt. Mess with me and I'll shoot you sure as I'm looking at you.
Stand up.
Crouch no longer uses a .25 caliber pistol. He's graduated to a more intimidating weapon.
I had a .38 special, which is a really ugly-looking weapon. I mean, it looks lethal, and it is lethal.
Put your hands behind your head, get down on your knees. Now.
Gather the employees behind the counter. You have them open the cash drawer. You go through, you take the money out.
Crouch once again draws on his experience in the financial industry. It gives him an edge at a critical moment.
You scoop money out, and you're looking for the die pack.
He knows to look for a die pack, a stack of real bills with a die device embedded in the middle of the pack. The device is activated by a radio frequency when it leaves the bank. Within 30 seconds, the device explodes. Crouch locates the die pack and tosses it. He knows he has to move fast. The longer he stays in the bank, the greater his chance of getting caught.
Tell him, on your feet. Manager, on your feet.
He ushers the bank employees into the restroom and gives them an order.
You put him inside the bathroom, tell him to sit down and count to 300, then you take the rope and you wrap it around this doorknob, that doorknob, pull it tight, it secures the bathroom. They're not coming out.
It's only a matter of time until the bank employee returns from lunch. Once she frees the tellers and calls police, it only takes 5 to 6 minutes for them to respond, and about 20 minutes to get out an all-points bulletin. Crouch has to move fast.
I got back to my room and opened the briefcase and piled on the bed. I mean, it was like, oh my God.
He turns on the TV and counts his cash. It's a haul of $9,000. But when the local news comes on, he's shocked by what he sees. Coverage of the robbery has reached Daytona Beach shores. If any of his neighbors see it, he's as good as caught.
And I'm like, oh my God, what have I done?
Murderer Joe Crouch has been a fugitive from the law for 6 months. Now, he's just robbed a bank. After the robbery, he heads back to his Daytona Beach Shores condo. He's shocked by what he sees on the television.
5 o'clock news, and there I am with a still shot of me standing at the teller's window with a gun in my hand. And it's a pretty good photo. Anybody that knew me in Daytona that sees that's going to have to be struck by the resemblance. And I'm like, oh my God, what have I done?
Crouch stays in his condo to watch the late news. When the 10 o'clock newscast doesn't repeat the story, he thinks he's in the clear. He decides to end the day, as he did after most successful robberies.
I had numerous available call girls that I would utilize, and yes, I would treat myself to one that night. I normally would treat myself to an excellent dinner that night on the way back.
Crouch takes $9,000 from the heist. And despite the scare, he embraces his life as a fugitive.
I played golf. I created a relationship with people that I played golf with. I met people. I made friends with them. All of that was great. But the trauma, the pressure goes with it, the constant, it never goes away from you.
Meanwhile, the FBI and Memphis Police Department have no idea their fugitive is also committing armed robberies.
We had no idea where he was. Obviously, he can't resurface as himself with warrants on him, his social security number. If he tried to get a job, if he tried to do anything, that would pop up on somebody's radar screen.
Crouch is carefully spinning a web of lies to lead his double life.
He would tell his karaoke friends that he would go back to Memphis to help his son with the business for several days. During this time, what he was doing is staking out family businesses or whatever that were being robbed and trying to find out what the traffic is in and out of these places. And a day or two later, he would rob the place and then come back home and go back out to karaoke bars and gambling ships.
April 2002. Crouch robs First Alliance Bank for $12,000. June 2002. He takes a Jacksonville bank for $14,000.
It seemed he became bolder and bolder and bolder. And maybe this is due to his arrogance. He starts out with what we call the mom and pop convenience store type robberies. And then he ends up with bank robberies. That puts you in a different league.
August 28, 2002. Crouch drives 170 miles from his home to Dunedin, Florida. After observing several banks in the area, Crouch decides on his target, Crown Bank. Crouch makes the decision that the cash drawers are not enough. He gives the bank manager a direct order.
I'm going to show them insert cash within 30 seconds. If I don't see it within 30 seconds, I'm going to shoot her.
Crouch knows the big money is in the vault. He quickly orders the tellers inside.
I got into the vault, and you have a safe. It was like a fireproof filing cabinet, and there is literally a shoebox there with their reserved cash.
Crouch loads up his briefcase. He knows this is going to be his largest heist so far.
Okay, both of you, out. All the way in the bathroom. Let's go.
But not everything goes according to plan.
Get in there. Go open the door. Get in there.
The problem was when I went to put him in the bathroom, they had a strange bathroom. There were no handles on the door. It was like an old saloon door going in and out. I couldn't lock them in the bathrooms.
Crouch makes his intent clear. If anyone moves, he'll shoot them on the spot.
Told him, lay down. I said, you better count to 500 before you come out. If you come out and I'm not here, then I'm going to shoot somebody. So don't be stupid. And of course, then I ran out the bank and then walked to the car. But of course, obviously, as soon as they heard the door shut, they come run out and they called.
911, state your emergency. Hi, we've had a robbery.
As Crouch pulls out of the bank parking lot, the police are already on their way.
Deputy sheriffs coming from like 3 different directions. They're doing 100 miles an hour and their lights are flashing.
After brutally murdering his wife of 41 years, Joe Crouch has turned to a life of crime. His quest for cash puts him on the path of danger during his 5th bank robbery.
Hi, we've had a robbery.
Police have been called to the scene as Crouch is making his getaway. Crouch sees a fleet of squad cars screaming towards him at high speed. He thinks it's over. Then, the unexpected happens. The police drive right past him.
He was just lucky. It was pure luck, basically. He should have gotten caught a lot sooner.
Crouch makes his getaway. Once he's certain that he is safe from capture, he pulls over to a safe location to count his money.
I open the briefcase. You can't wait. I mean, you got to know. It's a kick. How much money did I get? And I start going through 5,000, 7,000, 9,000, another 5, that's 14. And when I hit 30, I'm like, oh my God, I've done well.
It's a haul of more than $40,000 in cash, the most he's ever taken. Crouch returns to Daytona Beach and revels in his hobbies, golf and karaoke. Little does he know, one of his favorite activities is about to become his downfall.
He meets a lot of people. He's braggadocious. He was that type A personality. He was a very social animal. Buying drinks, spreading money around, multiple girlfriends. You're going to leave a lasting impression on somebody.
Crouch makes friends with 2 local karaoke regulars, Debbie and Lloyd Eaton. They know the fugitive only by his alias, Jay Nelson.
He told us that his wife had died, that he had a wonderful marriage with her, absolutely wonderful. He spoke of her like she was an angel.
February 2003. Debbie and Lloyd hit one of their favorite karaoke joints, Crappy Joe's. They soon learn the painful and terrifying truth about Jay Nelson.
Our friend came running up with a poster in his hand of Jay. It was an FBI picture, and said, "Have you heard?" I was floored. I was flabbergasted.
The news of Crouch's double life puts Debbie Eaton on edge.
It was very scary. Anyone who could murder someone so coldly, I have no way of knowing what he could do to me.
The couple call police and give them Crouch's address in Daytona Beach shores. Immediately, the police work with the FBI to lay out a plan for Crouch's capture.
The goal and objective was the same. Locate Crouch, arrest him, take him off the street.
March 16th, 2003. Crouch is in his Daytona Beach condo when something arouses his suspicion.
There was a cop car, a Daytona Beach police car parked across the street in front of a motel over, just sitting there, empty, nobody in it. I thought, well, that's peculiar.
Crouch disregards the squad car and decides to spend an evening at home, a decision that helps the SWAT team. Midnight. The SWAT team moves into position, placing officers on the beach and at strategic points around the condo. The SWAT team uses a flashbang grenade to stun and disorient Crouch.
I'm sound asleep. I hear this explosion. All of a sudden, I wake up and there's smoke everywhere. And I hear people hollering at me. And my first thought was the building was on fire. And this was the fire department. Next thing I know, I'm being tackled. A guy, he and I hit the coffee table and fall on it, break the coffee table. I cut a big gash in my leg. They're hauling me out and saying, "We're taking you outside. Are you Joe Crouch? You admit to being Joe Crouch? I'm like, damn, I better be. You tore somebody's door down for nothing.
21 months have passed since Joe Crouch murdered his wife. Now, the fugitive's Florida vacation is over.
There wasn't any running. I mean, you wake up and 10 seconds later you're smashed on top of a glass coffee table and handcuffed. No running to it. It's over.
Special Agent Bonner walks Crouch out to the curb.
He looked at me and he said, well, I guess you're relieved it's over. I said, I guess you're crazy as hell. Well, what kind of relief? No.
Authorities have their man, but they are shocked by a new discovery. Detective Brian Brugman finds additional evidence in Crouch's briefcase.
2 pages of notes detailed approximately 40 different robberies that he had committed around the state of Florida. It was pretty damning evidence that we recovered.
Crouch's criminal activity while on the lam now comes to light with these handwritten notes.
We were going after Crouch the fugitive, thinking that he allegedly killed his wife in Memphis, Tennessee. We did not know about all these robberies. Rarely do you find a guy committed one crime and then all of a sudden we find evidence of not one but 40 more crimes, armed robberies.
The notes serve as a detailed criminal roadmap for Crouch's 21 months in hiding.
We asked him why he kept the list of the robberies, and he admitted that he was getting old, and he didn't want to forget and go back to the same crime scene where he had been and get identified at a later time.
In total, Crouch's crime sprees net him $150,000. Following the arrest, the state of Tennessee extradites Crouch back to Memphis to face his first-degree murder charge.
I just tell him basically, look, I did it. I have no defense. I'm guilty. Let's get it in front of the judge. Let me plead guilty and go on. You don't want a trial? No, I don't want a trial. Trial would be terrible on your family.
But Major Mickey Williams believes that Crouch has a different reason for not wanting a trial.
He did not want to run the risk of getting the death penalty, so he pled guilty in exchange for life with parole.
After an 18-month manhunt, Major Williams finally closes the book on Joe Crouch.
Every detective likes to have that final chapter. We do care about getting our man and seeing that justice is done, so to speak. But more so, it was closure for the family, if there ever is that sort of thing, because I don't think you can ever repair the damage that he did to his children.
Crouch is serving a minimum of 51 years behind bars at the maximum security West Tennessee State Penitentiary. He'll be 115 years old before he's eligible for parole. Despite his sentence, he has few regrets about his time on the run.
Under the circumstances, I drained about every drop I could get out of that lifestyle. I squeezed it pretty good. I'm not at peace with what happened. I'm at peace with myself. You can't dwell on it. You can't. It destroys you if you do. And I'm not going to be destroyed by it. I have to live until they take me out of here in a body bag.
Crouch almost got away with it. And to this day, he has very few regrets.
I'd be real happy to still be out there looking over my shoulder. Real happy.